Welcome to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome back. I'm Katie, and I'm joined by Bonnie, Leah, and Kiara talking about our one cool LGBTQ thing. Yeah!
Yay!
Kiara already talked about alphabet soup. It was Alphabet Soup 101. I loved it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Bonnie talked about Hannah Gadsby, and now we all have plans for the evening.
Yes.
Well, Kiara and me.
Yeah. Oh, I still need to watch Douglas, so I got plans.
That's true.
Yeah,
Everybody's got plans, so I better get on this.
Yes.
All right.
Totally worth it.
But before we dive back in, let's get to know something random about our gal pals. And I have gone rogue and made up my own question.
Yes.
Do
it.
Yes. And it's a little bit of a two-parter. But I want to know if anyone has ever come out to you or kind of divulged their sexuality to you. How did you respond to that? And more, because I know you guys are all super amazing. Was there a preferred way to like support and celebrate when people want to share their sexuality with you?
Dun, dun, dun,
Right?
dun. I know, right? Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
Let's see. I had my best friend... I want to say middle school. I'm not actually sure if it was high school or not.
Mm.
So it was like middle school, high school. It was around that kind of teenage age. And we were inseparable. We were always together. And she wrote me a note that had, I'm trying to remember exactly how it went. It was one of those things where it was almost like a Rorschach test, you know, where you put an ink blot in the center and you press the card together and you have on either side. And she was like, and we are, you know, the same love for each other on either side. And it was her way of trying to tell me that she was gay and that she loved me. And so I was just like, I know what this is. And I didn't have the same feelings, but at the same time, I didn't want her to feel shameful or hide. You know what I mean? Like, thanks for telling me. You know, it's not going to change anything of our friendship and our dynamic. And I wanted to make sure that I was super supportive and she didn't like a breakup shame spiral sort of thing. So what I did is I set her up immediately with another one of my friends who I knew was also on the verge of coming out. And I went, maybe you two should talk to each other because maybe, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't going to say like, oh, you'll absolutely fall in love with each other, you know, that sort of thing. But I was just like, you know what? You're both kind of going through the same thing right now. So whether there was a love connection for the two of them or whether it was, you know what I mean, let's try to find some dates. You know what I mean? Like either way. Or just, you know, being able to understand like how do we navigate this, you know, and sort of thing. So so I just stayed very plugged in with the friendship. And they were together throughout all of high school, actually. So it was always one of those things where like I felt prideful that that even though it wasn't, you know, her and I as a relationship, that we didn't tarnish our friendship and that it was still like, this is totally cool. It's not me, but this is totally cool. You know what I mean? Like, it changes nothing. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm going from my perspective that I handled it awesome.
Yeah, you did.
But I might not have. I might have broke her heart. I don't know. Or squashed a celebration that she was really, you know, trying to have. So I only know my side of it, but I tried to intentionally be very positive and supporting and stuff. I tried. What about you, ladies?
I had well, okay, I have to say that growing up around theater, the majority of the men I was around were gay men.
Right. Yes. And they were out generally?
And they were generally out.
There you go. Yeah.
But as a teenager and stuff, that, I mean, I'm older than the rest of you. I'm 58.
Right. Gotcha.
And it was not something that was commonly talked about.
Right.
In high school. Or even college necessarily. But, okay. so I've had lots of people out themselves to me, and I have accidentally outed people, which is not fun.
Right. Always a worrisome for me too.
Yeah.
I have no filter.
But I had a friend that I met through theater and also through IUPUI, which is college here. And he and I used to hang out a lot.
Yeah.
And go do lots of things. And he lived about an hour away, but he'd regularly come down and we'd go spend an evening together and stuff. And he asked me at one point if I was interested in dating him, and I said, "No, Terry.
Right. Yeah.
I don't see you that way."
Yeah.
What I didn't say to him is, "I think you're gay."
Gotcha. Maybe it was a little bit of both.
That could be, right?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
But it was, I don't know, a year or so later, and he told me he wanted to go to lunch because he had something important to tell me. And we went to lunch, and he said, "Kara, I'm not sure, but I think I'm gay." And I said, "Okay, what's the important thing you have to tell me?"
Oh, see, that's adorable.
And yeah, he was just like, oh. So yeah, and we stayed friends, and then it was a few years after that he came to me and asked if he could start dating my dad.
Look at that.
And yeah, I was like, actually, that's cool,
right? Exactly, yeah.
So that was my way of celebrating it. I don't know that I really celebrate, but it's just you're you.
Yeah.
That's great. And who are you interested in right now?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Love it. Fun.
I'm the last one. No. I didn't really have a whole lot of friends growing up. So I didn't really have a person to come to me to be like, ah.
Yeah.
I do remember in high school, we had a boy in class that, and I think I've talked about it before on here, but there was a guy who we all knew. Like,
right.
We all knew. Like, he was, like, a bit flamboyant or whatever. Like, we all knew. And I remember we were doing a project in debate class, and there was, like, a big group of us in a circle, and I remember he had mentioned, like, he was gay. Like, I don't think we were, like, the first people he told, but we were like, yeah? Like, this is new information? Like, we were kind of like, whatever. Because our debate topic was actually gay adoption.
Oh.
So it kind of had tied in. He was kind of like, well, because didn't know. We're like, we know. Like, it's fine.
Right.
Yeah. But we weren't, like, close, but we were just like, yeah, we know. Like, let's get back to the project here.
I know, exactly. Acceptance.
Yeah.
Like, this is... Duh.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Well, I'm glad that I posed the
is
question because you guys made me feel better because I was kind of thinking back to the first person that came out to me was when I was in college, and it wasn't a particularly close friend. But my reaction was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
See.
Fine. Yay. No.
I know, right?
And I always felt like there was like some kind of like hanging expectation that I didn't fulfill. So I was like, and maybe this goes back to kind of our first episode thing, like, you know, communication, people. We can just ask people what they want.
Yeah.
Like, that's totally fine, you know.
Exactly. Be like, I could do that.
We
Thank you for giving me that information. Is there something you'd like from me now?
Right, exactly.
You guys have the beautiful words. I'm so awkward. I'm like,
you're fine.
Yes. Okay.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, maybe we should just always have a handful of rainbow glitter just in case the situation presents itself. And then we're like, yes!
Well, and when
maybe
you think
that's
about
the
the
alternative.
things that we explore as feminists are just like, would you say that about a man?
Right.
Like if somebody came to you and was like, I am straight.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a party?
Exactly, right.
No, we're like,
congrats. Did you think all day about that?
Have you seen Love, Simon? The movie?
No.
There's some issues with it, but it's a really good current day movie about a teenager. And that's one of the things that he thinks about is people don't have to come out as straight to their parents.
right.
Yeah, this is very true.
So
And then maybe that's why people that come out deserve a party, because it's not like we make it easy for anybody.
Yeah.
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 I go with what do you want? I
Yeah.
mean, do you want a party? Then let's do that. If you're like,
Right.
I just wanted to tell you, then let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whichever you like. That can totally happen.
Absolutely.
Bonnie's microphone is dying.
It's starting to fall over now. I can't remember which way tightens and which way.
Righty tighty, lefty loose. Although it's
That's
all
what
of,
they say.
all of. But Katie, what is
Turns
your
out-
one cool thing, girl?
My one cool thing is I'm
Yes.
going to talk about Glennon Doyle
Sweet.
and her new book, Untamed.
Nice.
Yes. Are you guys familiar with her?
No.
I know
No.
that she had a book called Love Warrior.
Yes.
And it was very popular. Have I read either of them? No. But I know the name and the titles that go with them. End of list.
This Untamed is actually her third book.
Oh, it's her third book.
It's her third
Oh.
book, yes. Her first one was Carry On Warrior.
Ah, okay. All right. See, I need
Second
it.
one was Love Warrior.
Okay.
And then this one is Untamed.
Ah,
Mm.
nice.
I have to be honest, Untamed is the only one I've read.
Gotcha.
I started to read, I think it was Carry On Warrior.
Okay.
But in it, she speaks a lot about her religious beliefs.
Mm.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of, for me, a book turnoff.
Gotcha.
I should be
Mhm.
more open, but like, especially when I'm reading like nonfiction and kind of
Yeah.
self-help, I want to be able to really identify with the person and be on the same wavelength.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when I started those, I kind of set them aside.
Gotcha.
Now I'm open to going back and looking, but Untamed is really, it's a beautiful picture of how she's progressed and who she's become as a person.
Gotcha.
And it definitely portrays her belief in God in it.
Yeah.
But in a way that I think is like deeper and more personal to her and not as institutionalized, which is where I kind of get weird about
Mhm.
religion, is when it's about the churches and the
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So-
Yeah. No, I'm actually right there with
Uh-huh.
you.
so this, like, you know, this is my personal, like, the intimacy of what she believes religious wise. Like, I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
I can dig on that. And in fact, in one chapter of this Untamed book, she makes fun of something she said in one of her previous books.
So it shows her evolution and growth.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the reviews on Amazon, and there was somebody that was like super offended. They're like, those words meant everything to me in your
Oh,
previous
Lord.
book, and now you're saying they're ridiculous?
Oh.
It's like, shoo, lady. Did you absorb the rest of the book? Because I'm telling you, it's brilliant.
See?
So,
No, just that part was about her.
yeah. Yeah. So this is really going to be hard to condense and share with you guys, because honestly, what I want to do right now is read the entire book to you guys.
Right, of
Mm.
course.
That's
Yes,
how much-
audiobook first
Yeah.
fashion.
I mean, that's how much I loved it. I read it in 2 days.
Nice.
And when you're staying home all day with an 8-year-old, this is not an easy feat.
Yeah.
Yeah. see?
And I'm not a great night owl like Leah.
Oh, I'm up super late.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
I'm like, last night I fell asleep at 8:30.
Oh my god.
Ooh, yeah.
I just started my evening at 8:30 and I was like, all right, now I'm winding down.
I mean-
Now I'm hitting the Hulu.
It wasn't intentional, like I tucked
Getting
into
out the
bed. It
cross
was more
stitch.
like, stay.
Starting my evening activities at 8:30.
Right.
I might even just be stopping work at 8:30.
Probably. So this goes to show how much
You
I
were
love this book.
dedicated.
Yeah,
Yes.
got it done in 2 days.
Sweet.
Awesome.
So Glennon Doyle, when she first became a public figure and author,
Mhm.
she was known as the Christian mommy blogger.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
So that was her handle.
That was like her persona, so you can kind of
Oh,
see what I'm
boy.
saying with
Yeah.
these previous 2 books. However, people loved it because she was really real.
Yeah.
She wasn't putting on an act to fit into a mold. She was like, this is me, this is what I've learned from being me and from experiencing
She
life.
was vulnerable.
Right, very
Yeah.
vulnerable in them.
Yeah.
She talked about her addictions.
Mhm.
She talked about her bulimia that she had
Oh.
since like early adolescence. She was first treated and even I think went to and was institutionalized for a little bit for her bulimia.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it really covered like the struggle that she had to go through to become a strong person and a strong warrior. That was kind of the theme of the first book.
Gotcha.
So, and it became a #1 New York Times bestseller.
Sweet.
So of course they were like, you should write another book.
That's usually the way it went.
Yeah.
Right. Good for people that are on the New York Times bestseller list.
Woo-woo.
Well done. I guess I should say probably how she came to the notice of publishers was she created the online community
Mhm.
Momistry. You know how I am
Oh,
with
yeah,
the
yeah. Okay, mom's.
pronunciation.
Okay, gotcha.
Mom, I'm going to call it mom mastery, like we're moms that have mastered things. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not in the blogger sphere or the,
Right, exactly.
tend to even be in the mommy sphere, despite having a child. But anyway,
exactly.
So it was kind of, that was dipping her toes into like sharing her story with everybody.
So it's kind of like monastery, but momastery.
I believe so.
Is that where she was going with it?
I think so.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
gotcha. There we go. Okay.
Momastery.
Yeah, there we
Okay.
go. Like
There-
monastery,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
with another
Monastery.
letter,
Mm.
which makes my brain. Okay, yeah. Mhm.
You solved the riddle.
Yeah.
You solved the riddle.
Mhm.
Sweet. What do I win?
I'd say you can
I
read
win
my...
a copy of Untamed.
I would say you could borrow my book, but
Well, no, you
right
need
now.
to read it again.
I need
but
to
not
read
right
it
now.
again.
That's fair.
I
That's
need to
totally
read it
fair.
again.
Mhm. Do it.
then it, you know what? I'm just gonna buy a copy for the
There you go.
because I need this. I need this. It's gonna help me on my personal growth. If I let it,
Yes.
we'll see.
Do it.
My own best stumbling block. Wait, no. So her Love Warrior book talked about her husband having an affair
Oh.
and that being revealed to her, and all the therapy they went to for that.
Yeah.
And in this Untamed, she talks about how she kind of like just wrote the book with how she wanted life to play out.
Oh, okay.
Like everybody in her life was her little characters, and she's like, "This is how it's gonna work.
Oh.
I'm gonna forgive him. We're gonna go through therapy. It's gonna be great."
Mhm.
Because her and her ex-husband, hint,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, spoilers.
spoiler, her and her ex-husband are still really great friends and really great co-parents.
Yeah. Nice.
They just weren't in love with each
Mhm.
other in
Yeah.
that kind of a way.
Mhm.
Love each other, but not in love with each other. So she had just published this Love Warrior about how like their marriage was fixed and healed and all that.
Mhm.
And she started to go out on tour to promote the book.
Yeah.
And while she was at a speaking conference, apparently I did not write which one,
Right.
a
One
speaking
of them.
conference
Yeah.
Okay.
in November 2016, she really does a great job describing the room, how she's feeling kind of socially awkward, like we all are when we're talking to strangers and fellow people. And then she looked to the door, and there was this woman walking through. And she said she just like got up on her feet, and she was so startled. And she's like, all she thought in her mind is, there she is.
Oh, she was smitten.
Wow.
She was in deep smit.
Mhm.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. She said, at first I assumed these words came to me from on high, but she soon realized they came to her from within. Because
I like that.
really the topic of Untamed is about how we're taught by society to stifle and not to trust our inner voice,
Yeah.
our inner instinct, our inner wants and desires.
Mhm.
One thing she talks a lot about is that as women, we are taught very young how to please people.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm
that
still working against
Uh-huh.
that sometimes.
right?
Yeah.
No. And she
Yeah.
said that, you know, when you learn to please other people, you forget who you are.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
you're usually pushing down things about you
Yeah.
to please other people.
Yeah.
And we're trained and taught over and over again to do this.
Right, exactly. And that it's selfish to not.
Right.
To
Right.
put yourself
Right.
over pleasing someone else. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like
Which gives you
constant
no
battle.
time or
Right.
energy
yeah.
for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's figuring out where that line is, and that's
Yeah.
a lifelong struggle.
It is. It's an all the time. I mean, I
Mhm.
read this book, like I said, 2 days.
Yeah.
I wanted to read it again immediately. I haven't touched
See.
it in a week.
Ah.
And it's
Or you
that-
think you're still processing it, probably.
and I think it's also
Absorbing.
that self-sabotaging, too.
Gotcha.
Like,
Mm.
oh, I need to do the dishes. I have to make
Yeah.
lunch.
you
I'm
know this will help
gonna-
you, therefore.
Yes,
back
and that
burner.
self, yeah,
Right.
It can't be
Yeah.
about me, so I'm probably not going to do this again. So I'm gotta read it a second
Do
time,
it.
guys.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Right
I'll
after you
check
watch
in
Nanette.
with you and
Okay,
see.
good. And I wish I could buy everybody in the world a copy. I might be getting a little too like fangirl over here, but it's
That's okay. It's fine. You're passionate.
I am.
That's the show.
And I have a new cross stitch. I need you to make me.
Yes, I'm on it.
One of-
I'm in between projects. What do you need?
One of my favorite quotes of the book is,
Yes.
"You are a goddamn cheetah."
I like
Nice.
it.
You're a
Oh,
goddamn cheetah. And I
awesome.
want,
Print.
I
I
want-
can do that.
yeah, I want everybody to
Beautiful.
read this book so I can just like look
You're
at them
Goddamn cheetah.
when they're questioning themselves and be like, "No, you're a goddamn cheetah."
See,
Yeah.
I like
So-
that. That's lovely.
In fact, the little blurb that's from is a sample chapter on Amazon if you want to check it out.
Ah.
But it's a story about how she took her kids to the zoo and they were watching the cheetah run.
Right.
So this cheetah has a Labrador friend that models how to run after this dirty, disgusting pink, or what is it? Anyway, this dirty, gross Jeep.
Okay.
That pulls a bunny. Yeah, it was a pink bunny.
Oh.
It pulls a pink bunny through the yard, and they chase it.
Gotcha.
So the dog does it first, and then they bring out the cheetah and the dog, and then they both chase it.
Ah.
And then the show's over.
Gotcha. Okay.
So she was like watching this and feeling lots of things.
Yeah.
And even one of the kids there was like, isn't she sad? She's not in the wild.
Right.
And the zookeeper was like, no, she was born here. This is the only life she's ever known. She's fine. And then she was standing there, and her oldest daughter like got her attention and pointed to the cheetah, Tabitha, was in her enclosure, and just they both were like, she looks so regal, and she's standing still and tall,
Right.
and all of that, majestic.
Mm-hmm.
So she, Glennon said, if she could ask Tabitha, the cheetah, what's going on inside of her right now, she feels like Tabitha would say, something's off about my life.
Mm-hmm.
I feel restless and frustrated. I have this hunch that everything was supposed to be more beautiful than it is. I imagine fenceless, wide open savannas. I want to run and hunt and kill. I want to sleep under an ink black sky, silent sky filled with stars. It's all so real I can taste it. And then she said that Tabitha would say, but I should feel grateful. I have a good enough life here. It's crazy to long for what doesn't even exist. And she said she'd say, Tabitha, you're not crazy. You're a goddamn cheetah.
There it is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a lot to unpack. Yes, exactly.
I just love
But I
that.
like the symbolism and metaphor and yeah, exactly. The empowerment that is in that.
Every chapter is like, it really like tells her whole story, but jumps around to even thoughts or opinions or epiphanies she's had on different subjects.
Yeah.
But that really kind of, I think, shows what started with her when she saw who became her future wife. Her name is Abby Wambach.
Gotcha.
She's actually a professional soccer player.
I
I
was
saw
gonna
Bonnie
say-
kind of looking like that name.
Yeah,
Was
it's like,
familiar.
Don't we have her book? I think we have
She
Abby's
sounds
book.
familiar.
She was on that book tour when
Yes.
she met Glennon.
Oh,
Yeah, for
look
her
at
book.
that.
Cool.
They share a lot in common. They both wrote bestsellers.
Yeah.
And they both, their works have been about being in recovery and
Gotcha.
getting sober.
Cool.
And so
We do
We have the book.
Yes, we have Abby's
We have
book.
the book.
Look at that.
there we go. I'm gonna Check
Beautiful.
that out. Support the
Yes.
whole fam.
Exactly.
But this like longing that started like she was starting to feel in her soul once she saw Abby. She's like, no, this is part of me that I've suppressed.
Right.
I've
right.
suppressed my sexuality to please others,
Mhm.
to be a good girl, to be acceptable by society.
Yeah.
But I feel this deep inside me, and this is right. So with
Yeah.
that feeling inside of her, I can't even imagine processing all this because she has to go back home and decide, what do I do? I'm married.
right.
She was still married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My family with my 3 kids. Bonnie got it out.
It's
There's
the
Abby's book.
first book in the biography section.
It is.
Ah.
It's the very first book.
See? We'll have to get some Glennon. Well, we have one.
We have Love Warrior.
We have
Yes,
Love-
we don't
okay.
have her first one, but we do have Love Warrior,
Love Warrior,
which
okay.
I think actually I did lend to Lisa. Yes.
Okay. Well, I would be curious to know what she thought about it for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
So, because I know Untamed is amazing, and it is a recent publication, and it really touches on more than just even her story, but a lot of what's going on right now in our society,
Right.
what's going on right now in politics in the United States.
Right.
And in fact, she took a look at all of those things and was like, this is really messed up and something needs to be done. So
Right.
she started her own nonprofit
Ah,
called
Cool.
Together Rising.
Gotcha.
It's an all-woman-led organization supporting women, family, and children who are in crisis.
Ah,
Crisis. Why
Gotcha.
is that hard? Word hard. I wanna
Crisis.
put like a T in there. Crisis.
Right.
So they raise money, and then they are the intermediaries that get the money to the places they need to go when a crisis happens.
Gotcha.
Um,
Kind of like the Red Cross almost, or
Right.
United Way sort of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah. Gotcha.
mhm. And I might be wrong about this because it's been a week now. But I think one of their, maybe it wasn't one of the first, but I know they definitely raised, I think, $1 million when all of the news media hit about the children being taken from their parents and detained.
Oh, the ice
Oh.
camps.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I
Gotcha.
know they raised $1 million to help reunite families.
Oh, wow.
And, like,
Oh, that's
personally-
awesome.
reunited
Nice.
children with their families.
Yeah.
So she talks about how amazing that is in there.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a really cool organization to look into.
I shall put it in the show notes.
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
Show notes.
And speaking on kind of this like topical subject, she has a whole chapter just called Racist.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Tackles it.
Tackles
Gotcha.
it. And she does. And honestly, I had never thought before about the fact that most of us probably are racist to some degree and don't even know it because we have bias that we can't even identify because
right.
we've been absorbing them
Yeah.
from our culture.
You have to
She
challenge
talks-
your bias. Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
And she talks about how she remembers, you know, she was a kid in the 80s like myself,
Mhm.
and she remembers watching Cops, where it's just
Oh, yeah.
white police
Mm.
officers arresting black men constantly.
Right.
Yeah.
And these were
Yeah.
the visuals and the things that she was consuming as a child. So she did a lot of work reading literature and books and work and articles written by people of color to understand more.
Yeah.
And she says even then, like, she got involved in the community and somebody came to her and, like, was like, will you do a presentation about this thought, or, you know, like recruiting white women to our cause, basically.
Right. Right.
And the internet kind of exploded and was accusing her of being a racist because you're taking a spot and a voice that should belong to a woman of color
right.
in this talk.
Yeah.
And so she had to get even deeper into what she thought and what was going on. And, you know, she did understand you can't please everybody,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
very much identified with what we always talk about is once you know better, you do better.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go to the source and you ask people, you
Yeah.
know, what is it I can do to help?
Mhm.
You know, you tell me. But, oh gosh, I've read articles too, like, you know, we don't have time to tell you what to do while we also have to worry
I know.
about.
Right. We're trying to live. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At the same time.
I
of
would
not
say-
stop racism. Yeah.
Probably more what she means too is if there's an organization that needs help
Yes.
run by
Mhm.
people of color, you can be like, hey, what are the things?
Yes.
And then we know, just like I was talking about sharing media, raising awareness. Really, the moment that this became really apparent to her was that she was talking to her kids about Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And they were watching, or they were looking at pictures, and there was like a white woman protesting with them during the walk. I think it was the walk to Birmingham. I don't know.
Gotcha.
But and one of her daughters was like, well, if we would have been alive then, that would have been us, right? And she said she was like getting all geared up to be like, yes. And her oldest daughter was like, no, we don't even march now.
Right.
Mm.
And she's
There
like,
is that awareness.
she's
yeah.
like, yeah, like now most white people like and respect Martin Luther King Jr. Like 90% of people are like, yeah, he's a great guy. He did great things. But back then,
At
Right.
the time.
his
yeah.
approval rating was so much lower, like 30%.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't look at that point of history and say, would I be there? Would I show up for the march? You have to look at the things right now. And do you support Black Lives Matter?
Right now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you there? So, actually, oh gosh, I highlighted so much, but I know I'm going to end up talking too much. But
You're
there's-
fine. You get
You're-
to talk as
I get
much.
to
You were a
talk.
goddamn cheetah.
I am a goddamn cheetah. But I like this because she quotes MLK.
Mhm.
MLKJ Jr.
Yeah.
Well,
MLK is
I
totally
have so
fine.
many things wrong with me in letters and names. But anyway, she quotes him in the letter from Birmingham jail,
Yes.
where he's kind of identifying that it's not the Ku Klux Klan that's the problem. It's not the white citizens counselor. It's the moderate white,
Yeah.
Mm.
is
Yeah.
what he says in this letter. Do you guys remember that part?
I need a refresher, but I do
Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
He says the white moderate who is more devoted to order than justice,
Mm-hmm.
who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods or your direct action.
Right.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
nothing changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost
So anyway.
apathy to a certain extent.
It
yeah.
is. It is. So I love
Exactly.
what she had to say about that, and I think it's really
Yeah.
pertinent to what has recently been.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not recent. It's been
Yeah,
going
it's
on so
constant.
long.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What was
So
it?
long.
I saw the other day. It's not that it's getting worse; it's that it's getting filmed.
Supposedly
Yeah.
Will Smith said it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yep.
It's always been there.
Yep.
But so, you know, I like Glennon because she makes me think about these things. 'cause
Yes.
I am very insulated. I'm sitting there doing my dishes and baking my hoagie buns. And
Right,
I'm like,
exactly. She's waking you up to the work.
She is. She's amazing like that.
See?
But since we're talking about Pride Month, I want to share some of what I thought was amazing in this book in regards to her love for her wife, Abby,
Yeah.
and what that's taught her and what she's learned from that.
Yeah.
Because I know she definitely, not only did she have to speak with her family, and I know that was the thing that was hardest for her, was telling her kids, your dad and I are getting divorced.
Right.
This is happening. But then she also has this reputation as the Christian mommy blogger,
Right.
touring with Love Warrior.
Yeah, it's an interesting crowd.
So
Yeah.
what's going to happen to her community of people and her career
Yeah.
if she announces that she's in love with a woman and they're going to get married and be a family?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So she said she was scared, but she said one thing she's learned is that she always wants to live with integrity.
There
And
you
that's
go.
not having two selves, that's having one self and being true to that self.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
she put it out there, and it was actually really well received by the people that follow her. The
Nice.
majority of them really well received. In fact, a friend of hers was like, maybe you've just been making this community of people for
Right.
you, because one day you would need their support and
Right.
their love.
Cool.
Exactly. See?
It is definitely cool. And I particularly love this part, this chapter called Questions,
Yeah.
because I'm real awkward about not asking questions to people. I'm all embracing, like, we should just ask people. So I say, what
Right.
do I do?
You're like, in my head, I've already asked.
Like,
four
I
or
don't
five
want to step on
questions.
any toes or offend anybody. You know, I want to be good,
Right. Exactly.
people-pleasing person.
Yeah.
Of course.
So anyway, she's talking about a talk she gave, and that this lady that was this older grandma lady, because she was wearing, like, I think a sweatshirt that was like, you know, best granny
right.
or something
No
like
goodness.
that.
It was obs.
Best granny. She stands up and she's like, Glennon, I love you, I support you, but I just feel so confused.
Okay.
She's like, you know, my nephew is now my niece.
Mhm.
My granddaughter went to prom with a boy one year and a girl the next year. She's like, she goes, why is everybody just so gay all of a sudden?
Oh.
And she said there was, like, just horrible tension in the room. People were,
Right.
like, looking at the lady asking questions, and then at Glennon, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
Right.
But I love Glennon because she's like, she said, blessed are those that are brave enough to make things awkward, for they wake us up and move us forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep. Sometimes you have to stir shit up.
Right? She said, unasked questions become prejudice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. So what she says, and I love this too, and I think it ties into the alphabet soup. We need more options, and we need to keep expanding our options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the
Mhm.
time. Because she said that so we have all these wild unidentified things inside of ourselves, all these different things, but that scares people because we need to define it.
Right.
So we have our wild faith, our wild sexuality, but we need to define it and package it. So religion, well, the wild faith becomes religion. So
Okay.
it's packaged, it's its own glass. Here's what it is.
Gotcha.
You can fit into that. And she says the same with the sexuality as a glass. You can pick a glass, straight or gay.
Yeah.
But she says, by the way, choosing the gay glass will likely leave you unprotected by the law, ostracized by your community, and banished by God. Choose wisely.
Right.
Yeah.
No pressure. Aww.
So
Right.
she said, you know, we've given people these two glasses and made one a lot easier, a lot scarier
Right.
Yeah.
than the other. And she said that what it is somebody was brave enough to look in deep inside themselves and say, wait, these glasses don't work for me. That
Right.
doesn't fit me. That doesn't sound like me. And then they rose their voice, and others joined with them and
Mhm.
said, yeah, you know, my glass doesn't have this thing that is me.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fit, and I want to be, you know what I mean? And you start a movement and a community.
Exactly.
And,
And you
you
build
know,
your own tribe.
Maybe we're all more
Yeah.
gay because now we can describe how we're
Mhm.
really feeling inside because we
Yeah.
have the alphabet soup to define it to people
Yep.
Right.
if we
That's
feel like
true.
doing so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So anyway,
I
I
dig it.
super loved that. You know how we were talking about the things you say when people come out to you?
yeah.
I also loved her chapter on permission slips.
Ah.
She said that she was a fundamentalist Christian organization recently announced that she was excommunicated.
All right.
Right? That's how she felt too. She's like,
Cool.
Okay.
You do you
That's
then.
fine. But she was talking to a friend about it, and the friend said, well, that's not even fair. You can't help it. You were born this way.
Right.
And she was like, wait a second. You know, what'd she say? Things you can't help are things you would help if you could, is her take on that.
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
didn't think on that.
Things you can't help are things you would help if you could.
Right.
And she said, you know, she loves her life. She loves her wife. She loves having sex with her wife. She loves discussing things, being intimate with her wife. If it even was a choice, then she'd be crazy not to choose this because it's
Right.
everything she desires and wants.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like that chapter needs to be read in its entirety, but I'll just throw that,
Right, exactly.
that little thing out there because that's something I would, you know what I mean? I was like,
yeah,
we
yeah.
just are who we are, but it's like, would we choose to be any different? Is that something that, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
be who we are? So,
Exactly. That freedom. That
right.
freedom of choice. Yeah.
and the other thing that I really enjoyed having a different perspective on was she was talking about this popular TV show they were watching, and the daughter character was coming out as gay to her parents, and she was like, don't say it, don't say it. And the mom character is like, don't worry, we love you anyway. We love you no matter what.
Oh.
Right. And she's
Yeah.
like, great. And she said, I knew the show was trying to be progressive to prove that these parents embraced their daughter's gayness just as much as they'd embraced her straightness.
Yeah.
Um,
But they still wanted her not to say it?
yeah. But, well, they say we love you no matter what
Okay.
because when we say no matter what is what we say when somebody disappoints us. Like,
I
she's
see.
like,
Yeah.
if my daughter went and robbed a bank, I'd be like, I love you no matter what, but this is
Right.
a problem.
Right.
So by saying, you know, I love you no matter what, we're saying, like, even
You're
though
putting
this is an
judgment
issue
on
for
it.
me and this is a judgment, I love you anyway.
Right.
And I had never thought about it that way.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, I might say, like, if my son comes out as straight, I might be like, I love you
Right.
no matter what, even
Exactly.
so.
Yeah.
Even though I
Yeah.
really don't want you to be, because
Yeah. Even though I don't
it's
want
just
you to
so
be.
much better. It's just so much better. Love
Your
you.
life could be so much more interesting.
Well, it's like understanding the difference between tolerance and
And-
acceptance.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I know that was a big one for me, but that's
Yeah.
what, yeah.
That is what
That's
you're
kind of
saying
that
there.
line,
Like,
yeah.
and I don't think it's necessarily intentional. It's just people that maybe haven't felt those words or really thought through those words.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And some of that is cultural too.
Yeah.
You know, we've
It's what we
seen
say.
other people do it this way, and so we
Mhm.
assume that this is the way we're supposed to. So yeah, exactly.
But
we
I
say
was-
the things that we've heard other people
Right.
say
You
before
just
and
kind
of
not really
repeat 'em.
think about it. Yeah.
and that's why I'm so thankful to read that, because I tend to
Yeah.
definitely be one of those people. I'm not necessarily what you call a super deep thinker.
Gotcha.
That's why I appreciate Glennon. She like
Mhm.
opens my
Challenges your
eyes to these
thoughts.
things and challenges these thoughts. Absolutely, because I would not have thought twice about that
Yeah.
phrase until I read that, and I'm like, you know what? That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, and then I feel like I am getting a little bit long, even though I know you were like talk.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
But I feel like this
Yeah.
is just a big one, because I know that a lot of people that identify as gay or any of the alphabets
Yeah.
are also very religious people.
Right.
Right.
I mean, because we're all different people.
Yeah.
You know, straight, gay, whatever. People have different religions and different thoughts about that.
Right.
And
and
if-
faith is part of a lot of people's different
Mhm.
lives,
Yes.
regardless of what the faith is. Yeah.
So I really like that she addressed this, because she got an email from somebody she used to go to church with that was like, you know, I love you and everything, but I still believe your gayness is wrong.
Yeah.
I have a God conflict, is what she kind of called it.
Right.
Because
Mhm.
God judges it as wrong. It's wrong. I can't accept this.
Mhm.
And she said, first of all, thank you for not landing on I love you, but, because we know love has no buts.
Oh, there you go. See,
Yeah.
you love.
Yeah.
You love.
End of list. Yeah.
Right. And so she expressed a few things in this. It's kind of long, and I know I can't read it all to you guys.
Gotcha.
Right? You guys have to, you'll get there.
Right, exactly.
I'm just going to buy one
We're
of
gonna
these for
have a copy of
everybody.
this
Yeah.
later.
So what she's basically saying in it is religion is not God.
Mhm.
Religion is a construct
Right.
made maybe to try to explain and interpret God, but the things
Right.
you're being told by ministers and preachers or whoever.
Yeah.
That's not God speaking directly through them. That's their own
fallible
words.
people.
Fallible people. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So the voice inside is our truth, and what we hear outside of that is an indoctrination.
There you go. Yeah.
Is where she lands on it.
Gotcha.
So I feel like I didn't say that near as well. Just read the chapter, guys. You
There
won't
you
regret it.
Got it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I highly recommend it.
I'm getting it.
I sold it.
See, look at that. It just came out too, like not too long, or
I
maybe
think-
January or something like that. But I
think
mean,
so.
it's this
It
year.
was January. It was so good. And now I know
See?
we are all goddamn cheetahs.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. I'll
I
work
know
on
I
that cross
have-
stitch.
A lot of self-work to do if I'm not too stubborn to...
We're all a work in progress.
Right?
That's the
We
thing.
are.
We learn something new every day that we can absorb and
True.
do better. It's just one thing at a time that we're working on.
She talks a lot about digging deep and like trying to figure out like, who am I?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's definitely not a question I could answer.
Eventually, or at least
Yeah.
what makes you happy today.
Yeah.
What would make you happy tomorrow?
You're such a guru.
I
like
know,
Glennon.
I try.
I need your self-help book too.
I am working on
I
it.
know. I need it now though.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
da, 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 da. Yeah,
Anyways,
one
since
step at a
I
time.
cannot read the entire book to you, I will let you
We will read it on
yourselves,
our own.
if you would, or if you just want to look into Glennon online or follow her on Instagram. She recently had like a nice little talk on self-care
Oh, perfect.
and how it shouldn't be putting our outsides out for somebody else.
Right, there
Needs
you
to be
go.
a little deeper, our self-care,
Nice.
right? She's like, I like those things too. They're nice.
Right, exactly.
But let's dig a little deeper. She also has a TED Talk, which I have not watched yet, but plan on
Gotcha.
it.
Oh.
Yeah, I can
Um,
put it in the show notes too.
Okay, very good. Good, so I can find it easy.
Yes, exactly.
You'll find it
So
for
you
me.
know where it'll be.
Right. Her TED Talk is called Lessons from the Mental Hospital, and it's about her struggles with addiction and bulimia.
Ah, very cool.
Yes, but I don't know. I've read reviews of Untamed that it's a book that every feminist should read,
Ah,
and I have to agree.
look at that. It's got the Katie stamp of
Awesome.
approval.
It does.
Fantastic.
I might jump from short book club to long book club to make everybody read it.
I don't really have a problem with that.
It was on that thing you emailed me today.
It was
Mhm.
okay because that seemed like a really really cool list
Mhm.
of book
Ideas
club
for book
ideas.
clubs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I was like, all right, this just needs to go to Katie.
I was looking through it while I ate my lunch.
Sweet.
All right. Any questions for me, guys? I know I kind of ranted on.
No, you didn't
Yeah.
rant on. You gave us beautiful
didn't. It's
information
awesome.
Broken passion.
to process and take with us on our journey of life.
Yeah, I can't even imagine someone who is like an avid church goer and then you discover that about yourself or you knew it and then came out and then the whole like congregation like being your other family being like
Mhm.
you're wrong, you're incorrect, and you're gonna be like damned for it. Like I can't even like that's
Yeah.
oh
Yeah. You know, I'm still amazed, I would say, with the opposite, which is what happened to Ellen. So Ellen came out on her show and in Time Magazine and to the world that she was gay.
Mhm.
And then her show got canceled and she went away for quite a few years,
Mhm.
3-4 years.
Yeah.
And the world kind of forgot about Ellen. And then she came back with her talk show.
Mhm.
And what has always amazed me is how many Christian women are like, I love Ellen. I watch Ellen every day. I buy
Mhm.
everything that Ellen talks about. And I'm like going, aren't you the same women who got her show canceled?
Mhm.
Right.
Like, to me, that's, that almost that flip as well. And then at the same breath, I'm like, well, thank goodness there's Ellen, because she's changing minds
Yeah.
one dance at a time, one giveaway at a time.
Right.
And you know what I mean? She's just like, no, I am part of your life. I am,
Yeah.
and she doesn't shy away from who she is. So I would think only because of Ellen there's a chance for that
Yeah.
religious shift to acceptance.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's not everybody.
No.
But it's the hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I know she talks in the book about, it does hurt to lose people.
Yeah.
But she talks in here a lot about how pain helps us grow. That she spent a lot of her life and a lot of her addiction was about avoiding pain.
Yeah.
But while we process the things that hurt us, we learn something about ourselves.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's a ping for you need to learn something from this.
Yeah.
And it may not be pretty.
Right.
But it's going to be worth it.
Well, if you're always comfortable,
Right.
you're not
don't-
going to be growing.
Right. You don't evolve that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable growth that happens. It's worth it every time. Sweet. Well, do you want to wrap us up, darling?
I
Find
do.
your beautiful sentence.
Ugh, I got like so crazy. I put my show notes over here.
You're like, where did it go? I was ready to find mine for you.
Got it. Well, that wraps it up for us this week. Join us next week as our next gal pal shares her one cool LGBTQ plus thing as Gal's Guide to the Galaxy podcast continues. Thanks for listening.
For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gals Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.